welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news and update show, discussing all the latest United news coming in today. There's transfer news, we touched upon a bit of that earlier today. Cunha, obviously transfer news about Gyökeres as well. Manchester United want to bring in 2 attackers, 1 striker, 1 player behind this attacker. Rasmus Højlund being up for sale. We might touch upon it at the end of today's show in more detail because it's going to link to some of the things we're going to discuss in today's show. But it's more about Ruben Amorim starting to show his true colours, getting fed up with the players, wanting a lot of players gone, not rating many of the players. And we're seeing that darker side of Ruben Amorim where he's going to be more ruthless in his approach. He's got rid of Rashford. Antony, we're going to talk about him because his Real Betis loan could be permanent. He's looking to get rid of players. Casemiro's barely getting on the field. He's smashing up TVs. He's willing to sell, this player and that player. And there's not many players in the club that he's willing to keep right now. And we're going to talk about him and his frustrations, and he's starting to show his darker side. Now, there is reports coming out as well that some players aren't happy with Ruben Amorim's formation and that, and we're getting the dressing room leaks here and there as well. And we'll touch upon that in more detail as well. But it's been discussed that some players have got concerns about Ruben Amorim as well, which I'm not the biggest fan of that news, but we do have to talk about that. And I'll probably go into more detail about it in maybe a video or live stream tomorrow. But this is obviously sort of a breaking story coming out now, which is classic Manchester United players because it's a long-term process. Some Manchester United players have discussed amongst themselves whether a change in plan is better suited to their style of play and might be the best way forward. There's growing concern among some players that the teething problems they have experienced under Amorim are not going to improve unless he considers tweaking the system. Now, what I will say about that is some Manchester United players know they won't last here under Ruben Amorim in this current system because they can't play this current system. Of course, there'll be Man United players that want Ruben Amorim to tweak the system because it's better suited to them. But tweaking the system to get the best out of this player and that player until the end of the season, and then just to go back to this system next year, will only put us back next year. The reason Amorim is sticking with this system is he's figuring out who can do it, who can't do it. The season's basically a write-off because then in the summer he'll know who he needs to bring in. The players will know the system and it will work better going forward. Eric Ten Hag came in, tried to do his way for a couple of ways, then tweak the system to go back to what the players could do. If we keep tweaking the system to go back to what the players would do, we're going to just keep the same bunch of players and have the same bunch of players that can play the same football. If we want a big overhaul, well, yes, we would probably be better off tweaking the system short term. But if we want to be in a better place long term, if we want a better long term overhaul, he's got to keep with the system. He can make tweaks in terms of why Delo and Mazraoui at wing back. Let's try Dorgu and Ahmad at wing back and have a more attacking approach. He can do that. You can change things up. We can play with a higher line, for example. But I think the formation and system itself, the fact that players want it changed and players are frustrated about it, I just think it's like, well, you might be frustrated about it because you're not going to be part of the future in this system because this system doesn't suit you. And maybe he should be playing a way to get the best out of the players that we have. And if he was an interim, that's what you'd expect him to do. But he's not an interim. He's here for the future. He's here for the long-term project. And the long-term project is 3 years. And in 3 years' time, if we stick with this formation and we figure out who can do it, who can't do it, we might be better off for it. And that's my opinion on it. Am I the biggest fan of the formation? No. Am I the most convinced by the formation? No. But would I rather do what Ruben Amorim wants to do than what the players want to do? Absolutely. We need a major reset. We need a major reset at the club because these players can't play a system. Stick to it. Amorim doesn't change and get a few players. He knows. I think we could have got Edwards on loan. I'm surprised we didn't go for Marcus Edwards considering we went to Burnley. I think he's better than championship quality. But I guess United are trying to avoid that. We want to get players that are good enough for United. We don't want to just get all right players that actually won't be good enough for us long term. I think United only want to bring in players that are good enough for us long term, whereas I think a lot of the options in January were better for us short term. Amorim needs to preserve with the system. If certain players can't adapt, move them on. And that's the way I see things. That's the complete way I see things as well. I wouldn't change the system for the players. I don't think the players are worth changing the system for. What are they going to do? Eric Ten Hag changed the system for them, and then the next season it got worse as well. But my question is, where is the problem? Manchester United for not winning games? My question is, where is the problem of Manchester United for not winning games? Even in the winning game, they struggle, never seen before. We're just not a good team. It doesn't matter what system we play, we're not a good team. What formation we play, we're not a good team. The players are more suited to a 4-2-3-1. If Ruben Amorim was an interim, you'd expect him to play a 4-2-3-1 and play a system that suits the current players, but he's not an interim, he's here long term. Our biggest issue is a lot of players don't have the IQ. Yeah, a lot of them don't. And I think, this week they're going to have more time training and learning the system, which will be better. We know these players can't do it, though. For me, I try win Europa and not finish horribly on the table, full reset for preseason. My mindset is get back in the top half of the table, win Europa to get in Europe. If you can't win Europa, at least win the FA Cup so we can get in the Europa League next year. Clive at Bournemouth looks like he's going to be a success in the PL 25 now. He's ready to shine. And he was poor before he went to Bournemouth. But do you know what? Clive could be an example of players of just because you're not at it at 21 doesn't mean you won't be at it at 25. And I think we've got a lot of young players that I don't want to write off because I think in 4 or 5 years' time they could be really good players, but we need some good players now. I think Højlund could become a good player, but he's not a good player now. Garnacho could become a good player and is an exciting player now. Maino is not the finished article. He's a good player, but he could become a really good player. We've also got to remember that we need United to sign some really good players, create an environment where the young players can then develop into really good players like the Euros, like the Mainos. That's what we need at this club as well. If we sell Garnacho, do you think we'll get Cunha to replace him? Yeah, I think we'll get Cunha to replace Rashford, even if Garnacho stays. Problem is, if Amorim continues like this, setup we're unlikely to win Europa or climb the table, and that's the problem. I don't think Amorim should change the formation, but maybe he makes adjustments depending on who is available. Like, I don't think playing Mazraoui and Delo at wing back as a pairing works. Maybe he could make adjustments as well. Amorim has to stay the course, otherwise he loses control of the club and not fulfill his potential. And I think the minute Amorim changes his formation, because that's what the players want, the minute Amorim might as well walk out the door, because if you're giving the players what they want and changing for the players, you've lost that control and player power wins again. Not quite literally as that. But yeah, so I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about Amorim. I quickly wanted to get into this. The Real Betis CEO said the other day the general director of Manchester United called me. We sent them all the details of the player so that we could see what we are taking care of him, so they can see we can take care of him. There is very good understanding with Manchester United with the player that he continues next season with us as a possibility. Why not? So, there's a possibility Anthony could stay at Real Betis if his loan continues to do well. We'll talk about that in more detail. But I want to get into Ruben Amorim, the dark side being revealed, and more on that. Because obviously we've now got the players saying, we want Ruben Amorim to change our system. I want Ruben Amorim to change formation. It's not working for me. Like, shut up. Like, let Ruben Amorim do what he wants to do. Look, I think Ruben Amorim will be a success based off what I've seen at Sporting, what Sporting fans say of him, if we get recruitment right and if we get everything right in the summer. I have concerns with Amorim. Amorim's getting things wrong. I'm not convinced by Amorim's system, but I just know, do not change your system for these players. Do not change anything for these players at Manchester United. That's just the way I see it. But it was said that some Manchester United players have discussed amongst themselves whether a change in plan that is better suited to the style of play might be the best way going forward. There is growing concern among some players that the teething problems they have experienced under Ruben Amorim are not going to improve unless he considers tweaking the system, is what was said earlier. But I want to talk about Ruben Amorim. I want to talk about his dark side. Anthony can go. I think Anthony will go as well. I think he will go. Someone said, you look at Arteta, for example, play quite defensive when didn't have the players, then adapted multiple ways to approach the project. I agree to an extent, but if this is the way he wants to approach it, I wouldn't tweak for the players. I'd only tweak if it was like relegation was a possibility or there was a lot of injuries. But let's talk about Ruben Amorim. So we know Ruben Amorim is ready to sell both strikers. He's made that clear to Ineos that he needs a striker. Amorim and Euro are the only players at the club who are safe this summer. We know that. Amorim has completely ghosted Casemiro, who barely plays. He got 1 minute versus Leicester. He got rid of Marcus Rashford, Anthony and Malacia, and is ready to move on more players in the summer. Amorim smashes the TV in rage and tells players how it is after Brighton lost, flipping and kicking chairs and tables. He comments about this being the worst United team ever, but then says that's a comment about himself. And then he speaks about how Ruud and Ten Hag could train this team better than him and he must be doing something wrong. But it's all actually just a dig at these players are so bad. Amorim is, getting frustrated. You can see that he does not rate the United players. He's playing Maino at striker. Euro and Amorim are reportedly the only players that are safe this summer. He's ghosting Casemiro, getting rid of Rashford, smashing the TV, kicking tables, making comments like, I can't train these players, worst side ever, but saying this is my fault. But you know that actually this is the players letting him down. Kokonki was apparently the only academy star that he rated when he came in, that caught his eye as well. Many stories and news coming out as well. Many news. And I feel like that side of Amorim, that more ruthless side, is starting to come out, because we're getting more news and more information on, actually, Højlund is up for sale. Oh, Xerxes could go. And I'm going to get into more detail about that in a second. But Ahmad is the only forward player at Manchester United to have fully impressed Ruben Amorim this season. While Amorim wants to keep Garnacho in January, it was primarily due to the lack of replacements and the loan departures of Antony and Rashford. Although Amorim is happy with Garnacho and believes there is a talented player in him, he may reconsider selling him in the summer to help generate funds, as Manchester United aim to sign 5 players in the window. Ahmad is the only attacking-minded player right now that Ruben Amorim's like, yeah, I'll keep him. He would sell Garnacho. He could sell Garnacho. He'd sell Højlund. He'd sell Xerxes. He'd be selling a lot of players at United, but he won't sell Ahmad. But he knows he needs at least 5 signings: a striker, a left 10, another wing back, a centre midfielder, and a centre back. He knows he needs those 5 signings, and he's willing to get a lot of Man United players to do that. Players that were said, a couple of months ago, they're untouchable, they're super safe. Well, no, they're not anymore, because Ruben Amorim's willing to let them go. Ruben Amorim's willing to sell them. Ineos are now willing to sell them. Højlund was untouchable in the summer. Maynard was untouchable in the summer. They're not untouchable now at Man United. They're not untouchable now. Because while I don't want to sell Maynard, and while I'd like to be patient with Højlund, but I think actually Højlund, he's not progressing. You can understand if Amorim wants to sell him. It just shows that nobody's safe. Players that were untouchable 6 months ago are now, no, you could be sold in the summer. And it's every player at United is worried. And I think that's why they're talking about, we need to change the system, because my future at United isn't certain in the system. Maybe that's a good thing. Ruben is a very good coach. He has lazy players for his formation. Forest played the same formation and master it. What is wrong with our players? We just don't have the players for formation. And I get maybe adapting to an extent to get that Europa League, get higher up in the league. But the way Ruben Amorim sees it is, if he adapts, the players win. And then if he wants to do this formation next season, we're behind because of it. That's the way Ruben Amorim sees this as well. While I like hearing news, I think it does our team a disservice when you hear like X-player might be leaving. It could cause backroom issues within the club. Every top club has it. And I think also the players are used to it, that they know that half this news and half that news is rubbish. Like, I think that every Man United player, bar Ahmad and Euro, have been told you're not 100% safe. And I think it's good for them to know that, because it means they're going to fight for their future. I don't think it causes dressing room uncertainty. It only causes dressing room uncertainty when a high-profile player is coming out saying, I'm open to leaving, maybe like someone like Rashford did the other month. But I think being like, Højlund isn't safe at United, I don't think causes problems. If anything, it should give Højlund a kick up the bum. And if it doesn't, then so be it. You don't have the mentality to play for United as well. I don't mind the formation, but it's being deployed very static, reminding me of the LVG a bit. Yeah, this is the thing. The formation can be attacking. We've seen that at Sporting. And I think because wing-backs are the primary ball carrier and we don't have wing-backs, it just feels a bit too defensive for us, the formation, because we don't have the wing-backs. But with Dorgu coming in, and hopefully he'll be playing left wing-back, that can change as well. Rashford gone, still same problem in teams getting leaked. That needs to stop. I told you a million times, Rashford is not the team link. Rashford doesn't cause problems behind the scenes, despite what people like believe or try and make out. Rashford was never leaking anything. Rashford wasn't responsible for dressing room leaks. It's very obvious that that's always been a problem at the club as well. Ahmed, Dorgu, Yora, Garte, the only ones safe at the moment. I would assume like Garte's safe, obviously Dorgu's safe, but like Ahmad is the only player that's like nailed on 1,000,000% safe. Yora is one that's rated highly for the future. When you look at the squad, doesn't seem like many bad characters, mostly just not good enough to suit to the system. That's the thing. I don't think we had a bad squad in terms of characters. I don't think we have a bad squad in terms of characters. I don't think there's anyone there that's going to argue Ruben Amorim beef and be a problem. But I think we've got weak mentalities and a lack of quality. I don't think these players are bad eggs in the sense of they're toxic. I just think some of them are weak and not good enough. That's how I feel about the players. I completely agree with that comment as well. Amorim finding it difficult to adapt to the Premier League. I think it's just adapting to United. It's a massive challenge. It's a big squad. Look, for me, if Ruben Amorim gets 5 good signings in the summer and this time next year we're playing like this, then yeah, Ruben Amorim won't be the guy for United, and that's just more money wasted. But Ruben Amorim, I can't judge him until he's had his signings in, until he's had his back in. You can't judge him. You can't judge the system. And the system we saw at Sporting, he got the job because of this system. And that's why he doesn't want to change it. Now, what Ruben Amorim does want to change is the culture at Manchester United. He's made that clear. He really wants to change the culture at Manchester United. And, Ruben Amorim's sort of in the mindset of, if you don't give 100%, you're out. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're out. Marcus Rashford walks into our starting 11 right now because we're not scoring goals. And he could have been useful in 5 or 6 of the games that we didn't win, that he was sitting at home for. But he didn't want to bring Marcus Rashford back. And it was a little bit more than training. We know that he's been forced out by Ineos. But Rashford didn't give what he wanted on the pitch versus Victoria, please, and he walked around. Rashford didn't give 100% in training. Instead of going, crap, we're losing a few games, let's panic and bring Rashford back in, Rashford went. And that's a message of, you can be a big player. You can be the most adored player at Manchester United. You can be the biggest name at United, but you will go. If you don't want to be here, you will go. If you do an interview saying, I'm open to a new challenge, you will go. And that's what happened with Rashford. High wage players have been shown the door. Casemiro is just not playing. Casemiro is not playing. He's not part of the future. Rashford has been shown the door. It's not favouritism. I get Dalot keeps staying on and Dorgu coming off could be seen as favouritism. I think it's just a young player moulding him in. But there's not that favouritism there. He's trying to change the culture. And what he does, Ruben Amorim, which is quite unique to other managers, is he monitors behaviour outside of training. He's monitoring, are you going on late nights out? Marcus Rashford, apparently one of the reasons he was dropped versus City is because he went on a late night out. He's monitoring, what are you doing in your spare time? Why are you drinking? Why are you going out? Why are you doing this? If you're not playing well on the pitch, why are you doing this, this, and this? He's not saying they can't have a life, but if you're not doing well on the pitch, why are you going out till 3 a.m. drinking alcohol? He's going to call you out on that. And that's, I think, fine for a manager to do that. We know Garnacho got dropped all because he spoke back to Amorim or walked away from Amorim when Amorim gave him instructions. And Garnacho was dropped and then he was on the bench for the next 5-6 games coming off the bench. But he's had to really prove a point to start. And I think that might do come on like Garnacho the world of good. It changes the culture of, I'm a regular starter because everyone else in the team is crap, to no, you don't give me what I want to see. You don't give me the right attitude. You won't start. And I like that from Amorim. You don't give me what I want to see in training. You don't give me the right attitude. You won't start. He might not be changing his formation, but he's definitely trying to change the culture. He wants to put an end to player power. And in terms of ending the culture as well, it's the culture of nobody's safe. Nobody's safe at Manchester United. This player's future's in doubt. This player's future's in doubt. He's made it clear to Wilcox he wants a striker. Him playing Maino up front last week was a clear message of, I want a striker. I want a striker. I'm playing Maino at striker because he doesn't want to play Højlund or Xerxes. He wants Højlund and Xerxes to improve. He wants to believe there's a point in Højlund and Xerxes. But if he rated Højlund and Xerxes, he'd be playing one of them most games because we're not scoring goals. He doesn't. He's stressed the need for 2 wing-backs as well. We've got one in Dorgu. He said to the board, wing-back, striker, priority. Need a player behind the striker. Probably need another centre-back. Probably need another midfielder. But you actually look at Man United now, and I look at it and I think, well, the wing-backs aren't safe. Dalot is not safe. Mazraoui can be a right centre-back. Dalot potentially could be right centre-backs. But Dalot will be safe next season, I think, just because the fact he can stay fit and can play left wing back or right wing back. But long term, I don't think Dalot's future is safe at United. I don't think Garnacho's future is safe at United. And they were 2 players back in summer that were untouchable because they don't suit the system. Amorim is making it clear, I need a striker. Højlund is no longer safe. He's made it clear he needs wing backs. Dalot's not safe. Mazraoui could be at risk. But he's also making it clear he needs players for his system. There's a lot of players at risk right now. He's had enough of a lot of these players. Højlund was untouchable. He's up for sale. Maino isn't even safe. We haven't got him on a new contract. Apparently, we want to give him a new contract, but he's not safe. Like, the only player at United that's probably truly safe under Ruben Amorim is Amad Diallo. Amad Diallo is one of the only players because he's had enough of the players as well. Couldn't care less about the FA Cup. I don't mean to go out on a loose. The Europa League is more important, and this would help our financial situation, bring in players and get rid of debt. I'd rather win the Europa League than the FA Cup, but I want an FA Cup win to get back in the Europa League at least next season because we ain't finishing in the top 6. We're not finishing the top 6 this season as well. Amorim wants Human at Sporting. He's a real leader. I know through my mate, just fair warning, he's got Arsenal tat. We have been linked to Human in the summer, but I don't know. I think if we're going to get anyone from Sporting, it'd be Kenda and it'd be Gyökeres. I don't think we'd raid anyone else. There's actually a report coming out today that Amorim agreed to Sporting. He wouldn't raid them in January, but is preparing for a summer raid, including Kenda and Gyökeres. There's actually a report of that as well. Amorim has balls. I see Fergie in him. Amorim gives the players the hairdryer treatment. There's definitely aspects of Amorim where he's got a little bit of Fergie in him. He's giving the player the hairdryer treatment. He's saying, smashing a TV, making it clear, like, what was that performance? What was this? What was that? There's definitely elements of Ruben Amorim that remind me of Fergie, and I think we need that. We need him to come in and be super strict. We absolutely do, because he needs to change the culture. He might want to change it. He might not want to change his formation, but I know Ruben Amorim himself will want to change the culture, and he'll come in with that strict attitude, which is probably the way to go when you think about it. But I'm going to get into more news. I'm going to get into more stories, people, as well. Always wonder if bringing in younger players into the fold could determine their development due to current climate. I do worry with some of the young players. We've got a lot of really good, talented young players, but I do worry not having, stable, experienced players around to help them out. It's going to make it harder for those young players to develop, because we're going to be so reliant on them that if they have a dip because they're young, we're going to give them stick, and then they're going to be over criticised, and that's the problem with it. We will talk about the Spurs game in a minute. Someone said Maino's too slow. I don't think Maino's too slow. We just need to find his best role in the system. He's a great player, Maino, but there is worries if he fits the system or not. If you had to choose between Gyökeres and Ostenhem, which player would you prefer? I think Ostenhem's a better player, but I think Gyökeres is a better fit for the system. But I do think without service, I'm worried about both of those players. I still have concerns and worries about those players. We've got more news and more reports in terms of dressing room leaks, rumours, whatever you want to say here. Basically saying that some Manchester United players are not happy with Ruben Amorim's formation. We've had information on this before. I've met Ty, nice guy. Again, very similar to what Chris Wheeler was saying. There is a bit of tension inside Manchester United right now, as well. Ty said this earlier. It's now been confirmed by Chris Wheeler that there is a little bit of tension inside the dressing room, and a little bit of frustration in regards to Amorim's formation. And Amorim's not going to be happy with that one bit, and it's frustrating that is the case at United. But some players aren't happy with Amorim. Are they turning on Amorim? I don't know. Maybe. They didn't look like they were trying for Amorim versus Leicester, but I think what the players need to know is if you turn on Amorim and you don't give it for Amorim, it's going to be you that goes, not Amorim, this time round. And I think, Amorim will make that message clear as well. Amorim does seem to be struggling to find what Maino's best position is. That's my worry as well. Maino's too slow. I think that's why Amorim's playing him up front. I do have a little concerns around Maino under Amorim in terms of the system and what his best role is, but I think Maino will be a great player. I think Maino will become a world-class player one day. I think, people are expecting him to do it week in, week out now when he's had injuries and he's learning a new system, but there's a top player in Maino. Gyökeres a much better shooter, is a thunder shot on him. And I think because we don't do a lot of crosses in the air, Ostenhem's a better header of the ball. I think Gyökeres is a better fit. Gyökeres and Cunha looks like it could be Man United's plan. I spoke about this in my video earlier today, but it seems like Gyökeres and Cunha could be Man United's plan. It was said Victor Gyökeres has been touted as the dream solution to Manchester United's goal-scoring troubles, while other names have been mooted. Regardless of who United identifies their top target, they will sign a striker this summer. Laurie Whitwell confirmed striker's number one priority, and we had Fabrizio Romano say earlier today that they want a striker and one player that can play behind a striker. Victor Gyökeres and Ostenhem are two of the strikers that we are looking at. Again, this is one for the summer to keep an eye on. Sources close to Marcus Rashford have indicated that he does not appreciate being dragged into Jadon Sancho's tensions with United. He wants to stay on good terms. I can imagine Rashford was annoyed about that Sancho comment because it brings more heat to him that he doesn't need. Martial not being injured this season I thought was interesting news, but I wanted to scroll to this. Ruben Amorim keeps telling Manchester United how crucial it is to bring in players who can give intensity to the squad. This is a key word that will dominate the summer transfer window for United. And United's intention is to sign at least one player who can play behind the striker and one striker. There's going to be an attack overhaul. He wants certain players out in attack, and he wants players to come in with the right intensity. And I think that would be Cunha and Gyökeres, because we know with Cunha as well, they're following him, 62 million release clause. We rung about discussing him in January, but we knew we weren't going to sell Garnacho, so that didn't happen. And we know that there's interest in Xerxes. We know there's interest in Højlund. There could be a big sort of attacking overhaul at Manchester United as well. People are being critical of Maino in the chat, but I think it's so over the top. The kid is 19 years of age and was our best player, one of our best players in the underperforming squad last season. He's learning his best role. He can have bad games. He's developing. I don't get the Maino hate at the moment. I think it's a bit reactionary. Let's show Maino love. There's a great player in Maino. Let's show him love as well. If we want Gyökeres, we've got to move fast. Top clubs want him. I agree. Apparently, he's willing to wait for Manchester United to link back up with Amorim. But again, I don't know how true that is. We do obviously like Gyökeres and he's on the list. But I sometimes think, are the media jumping the gun with Gyökeres to United because of the obvious Amorim link? Or are they actually got information to say we're for Gyökeres? They're saying we want Quenda. They're saying we want Gyökeres. They're saying we're going to jump for those two players sort of in the summer is what's been said. And that would fix our attack. But I'm a bit skeptical about some of the media as well. Maynard was great against FCSB. This is the thing. Maynard has a good game, then he has a poor game, and then everyone turns him after the poor game, but then everyone hypes him up after the good game. Why don't we just assess Maynard's season as a whole and say this is a good young player, but he needs support, he needs development. We can't rely on him to do this and that as well. Anyone who thinks Maynard is overrated doesn't deserve to watch football. You're reactionary. Maynard's a generational talent, and if he was in a team that could actually keep the ball, you'd see it. And I agree. I think if Maynard was thrown in a good team, the right environment, you'd see it as a generational talent. And also, just because Maynard has a few bad games at 19 doesn't mean he's going to be a bad player. He could, let's see Maynard in 6 years' time when he's in his prime and how good he is. I just really want Cunha here, first signing along Quenda. I think Quenda will be the first signing in the summer. I think Cunha and Gyökeres are one to watch. I think a centre-back's one to watch. And I think another forward is one to watch. Just having a look at a few live chats as well. In my opinion, Højlund's excessive running may not be confused with must not be infused with intensity. I think Højlund works hard and tries a lot. It's just not coming off for him. His touch has been poor. Who cares if the players don't like Ruben Amorim's system? This is about the club's direction. Sell those players who don't support the manager's system. And I agree. This isn't about the players' direction. This is about the club's direction. You're absolutely spot on as well. Do you think we'd sign Gyökeres? I'm not sure. I think we'll get one of Gyökeres or Cunha, but I'd like both because Gyökeres, Cunha, Ahmad front three would be a really good front three. But listen, people, I just wanted to keep this live stream short and sweet. So I am going to wrap it up in a second, but I just want to thank everyone that's tuned into the live stream and showing the support. Alex said that Maynard should be allowed to rotate in and out and develop with finished articles in front of him. We just don't have that 100%. We don't have the best environment for Maynard to develop in, but I still believe he can be a top player. But listen, people, thank you for watching. Bye.